Hi, my name is Anna. I'm an outreach specialist working with Wisconsin Voices for Recovery to bring you Saturday Night Chat. Saturday Night Chat is a monthly chat that creates a space for people to share their recovery journey and to show people in and seeking recovery that they are not alone and that recovery is possible. Today we'll be hearing from Jess. And Jess, if you want to introduce yourself and give a brief overview before we jump in.
Hi, thank you, Anna. So my name is 𝗬𝗂𝗧𝘂𝗧𝘂𝗍𝗶. Everyone calls me Jess. I'm a person in long-term recovery. My sober date is 2/28/2020. And so I guess I'll just kind of jump right in and give you a somewhat short story of my recovery, well, my addiction and my recovery journey. So I am from Wisconsin originally. Everybody comments on my accent, but I grew up in Alabama. So from the time I started school in kindergarten, I was in Alabama. So I grew up in a somewhat healthy home. There was not a whole lot of communication. My mom was super young when she had me, and also struggled with some substance abuse. It's kind of all over in my family. And I don't know my biological dad. So when I say dad, it's my stepdad, but he is the one who raised me. So he's my father. I've got 3 younger brothers. They're all amazing and basically won't even touch a Tylenol because they've seen what I've went through, which is great. And so I've got those people in my life are still in Alabama. And I miss them tremendously, of course. I have a daughter. I'll get into that more later on, but that's still a work in progress of trying to regain the trust in the relationship. And sometimes you just have to go with it and pray about it and be consistent and hope for the best. So I had my daughter when I was 20. Before that, I was a goody two shoes. I was homecoming queen and straight A student and captain of the cheerleading squad and scholarship to cheer in college. Like all of this great stuff happening. And then I had my daughter, and shortly after that, I had a surgery done. It was emergency surgery, and I was in the hospital for, I don't know, 5 to 7 days or something like that, and got introduced to painkillers in the hospital. And I mean, I pretty much went home addicted to them. I mean, that was how quick it happened. Throughout those, probably the next 2 years, it gradually got worse and started taking over, and the doctor weren't giving me enough, so I ended up, what all of us probably do is, the doctor's not giving you enough, so you go to other sources. And then the next 15 years of my life was just hell, and it rapidly went from, I was this goody two shoes mother, great sister, great this, great that, to running from the police. I went to prison twice. I went to jail, God knows how many times. Treatment probably 17 or 18 times. All these times where I just wanted to get better, but really, in a way, didn't. There's still some left in you that you got to get out, I think. So let's see, I'll just skip all of that because you can go and talk about all the bad stuff that happened, and you can stress how terrible it was, but I try to highlight more of the good stuff because all of that led up to my life now, and my life is amazing. So I try to not dwell on that too much. But anything that us addicts go through, from being homeless to, doing whatever you have to do to get your drug of choice, I did it. So skipping all that to get to me getting sober. I was in prison, like I said, for the second time. Horrible. And I was using in there every single day. You know, it was very easily accessible. Um, but I still had this like stirring in my spirit. Like I was like, I've got to stop this. And it got to a point to where I had a year left out of a 4-year sentence. And I just kept praying, kept praying. I was like, God, just please take this away from me, you know? Which later I found out that he'll take it from you, but you also have to put some work in. You know, you can't just you get up the next morning and, you know, it might be gone, but you still reach out and do the drugs. So I always tell this part of my story because this lady, 𝗬𝗂𝗧𝘂𝗧𝗂𝗍, she's still in there. She's still in the prison. She saw that in me. She saw that stirring in me. And she was like, she came up to me one day, never spoke a word to me, and came up to me one morning and said, you know, I see a light in you, and if you want my help, I'm here. And so that was 2/28 of 2020. And I took that as a sign that, you know, I had somebody that out of the however many women that were in there, one person reached out to me and was like, I see you and I can help you. And that's a main reason of why I do what I do now, because I want somebody else to have that feeling also. So I got sober, stopped using, went through that last year, and I was like, I've got to figure something out, because I cannot go back to Dadeville, Alabama and live with mom and dad and see everybody, you know, that I used with. Everybody knows me as a pillhead. Everybody knows me as this and that. I was like, I can't do that again, you know. So I found this little place. It was like a halfway house, sober living. Went there, and with a little bit of clean time already under my belt, they asked me to start working there. Did that. I was a house mom for about a year. Got peer support certified, all the stuff, you know, all the things. Worked super hard at this grocery store. You know, it was just, you have to humble yourself and take those steps, because if I wouldn't have, and I would have thought, okay, I've got to do all these big things. I want to get to where I'm at today. If I would have thought that big back then, I would have been overwhelmed, probably would have started using again, you know. And so I just worked at, you know, getting my license back, getting a car, building trust, you know, all the stuff that you have to do to somewhat get your life back on track. Paying off fines and not having warrants out for you. Like, that was a huge thing for me, because for 15 years I had warrants, you know. And just showing up and being honest and doing, you know, AA and NA, they always tell us, like, just do the next right thing. Like, it's that simple. And I took that and I was like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. So, I rebuilt my life. Like, it was from scratch. Like, I had to start everything. The things that most people do when they're early 20s, you know, get their first new car, buy their first home, all that stuff. I was 40 years old, but I was doing it, you know, and I was super proud of myself. So then, let's see, I reconnected with someone that was super special to me, back in my using days, back in 2010. I reconnected with her, and it has been amazing ever since. Addiction is not in the way, you know. I'm a whole different person when I'm not using, like everybody. Addiction just really takes a piece of you. So yeah, so I went back to school, got my bachelor's degree, 2 classes away from my master's, thank God. It's almost over. So that's been a journey. And then I just like really started making connections and have like sober people that I can depend on and call, and it's just been great. So I started working as peer support. Then I started working as a discharge planner, just kind of moved up. And now I'm assistant director at Northern Valley Industries, which is crazy even saying sometimes. Like I have to, really think about it. Like, wow, 6 years into your sobriety, that's the trajectory you went on, and it's insanely great, and I'm very grateful for it. So, yeah, that's where I'm at now, and in Wausau, Wisconsin, instead of Alabama, but and barely making it through the winter, but I'm here. So that's kind of the short story. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. That is a very beautiful story, and I appreciate you opening up about that. You kind of like touched on this a little bit, but maybe if you're comfortable diving more into this, how do you build a sober support group? Kind of like how did you figure out how to build that? And why was it like important for you to kind of have that sort of like sober group community, you know?
So I think to start out with, it was really about, I was in the halfway house, and I had sober people to look up to. I had people that were like giving me the tools to use, I guess is a good way to put it. You have to feel safe. You have to have healthy people that you can talk to. And you have to be willing to do the talking, because for a long time I wouldn't open up. I would not, because I was like, how would anybody understand where I'm coming from? Like, how does anybody feel this way? And then I gradually found out that a lot of people feel that way. It was fairly easy for me to talk to people once I figured out that I was in the same boat they were. At one time they went through the exact same thing. If not the exact same thing, something really close. So I would say, and don't like feel like you have to do one certain way of recovery, because it could be meetings are great. It could be sober friends, it could be church, it could be just one special mentor that you have that you really feel like you can count on and talk to. I think that's the most important thing that I found out, was that if this doesn't work for me, I don't have to do that. I can do a different route. And that's why there's so many different recovery groups and support groups out there, is because at one point somebody said, well, that doesn't work for me, let me start this, and it worked for them then. So yeah, and I think also support groups give you some accountability. One big thing for me when I started working at that halfway house was that, because we all have those moments where it's like something happens and you're like, oh, I could really use right now, and I could go have a drink right now, but that extra accountability, knowing that those girls that were there that were just getting sober were looking up to me, and they were like, I had to be accountable to them, because I was who they were looking up to, and they needed somebody just like I did. So it's just accountability was big for me. So yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. I think that's a great answer. I love the accountability and, being able to open up and talk about things. I think that's super important. Awesome. You kind of touched on this before too, but how did you work through getting through like those piles of debt and working through your warrants to kind of just working through it, but also like getting to that positive headspace that you were talking about, of like you're really focusing on that positivity, but also at the same time you did have to go through super stressful things to get to that. So do you feel comfortable like kind of diving into how that was for you and how you got to where
Yeah, I think well, the most famous words of anybody that got sober was one day at a time. I was told that so much, and I was like, oh, one day at a time, it's like, that's all you hear when you first get sober and you're going into the rooms and that's all you hear is just take it one day at a time. But it is so true. Like, okay, so you mentioned the fines. Like, I had and still have a lot of money to pay the state because I did a lot of bad things. But I started out like I just have to know, like, these next 2 weeks I get a paycheck, this amount has to go, and I have to stick to that. And it's the small goals. I was talking about being overwhelmed, and I think having big goals is great, but at the same time, you need those small ones that are achievable, that you can actually reach, because that feeling of pride and like, hey, I got this one fine paid off, or I got, my driver's license back, or, I was able to pay back my mom for sending me money in prison, like stuff like that seem really small. It's huge when you accomplish it. It's that's huge to me. So I'm trying to think, what else did you ask? The stressful experiences. I pray a lot. I depend on my higher power a whole lot. Like right now, I drive back and forth to work a pretty long stretch when I have to come in. And that's my time, my me time. That's my time to meditate or listen to my, as people call it, my Jesus music. But that makes me feel good, and that fills me so that I can, like, nothing today is going to happen that I can't get through. There's just nothing that can happen that I would say, oh my God, like I'm going to go and get some pills and get high. Like that's just not in me anymore, because I've like retrained my brain to think. Like the other day we had a hailstorm that was very unexpected. And one of my coworkers was, talking about her roof of her car is all messed up and everything. And I'm just like, that's tragic. It's terrible. But at the same time, like, what can you do other than fix it? Call your insurance company. It's not going to be anything massive that you can't handle. Like most things are very easily handled, as long as you just like step back and are like, okay, what can I do to fix this? Instead of stressing out. And now I do stress out some. I'm not going to say I don't. Like I'm a worrywart when it comes to some things, but it's not going to lead me to use it today. I just have to look at it like that. So.
Well, thank you. That was an amazing answer. And then I guess kind of like to bounce off of that, what are some of those like positive experiences you like brought up before that you kind of have after finding sobriety? I know you kind of talked about like your career and like building those relationships, if you want to dive into those.
Yeah. So positive experiences. And I love to tell about, like, I'll just bring this up now. Like I've talked to you a little bit about it. My daughter and the relationship. I have to celebrate the small wins. Like starting out, she was not ready for me to say I'm sorry. I hurt her for many years, many years. So within these 6 years, staying consistent, staying present, so even if it is just sending messages, that she's getting them, that has been the most positive experience, because little by little I see, like, it might just be a heart on an Instagram message, but that is huge when it really comes down to it. Like it's a work in progress, and I'm going to keep showing up, and I pray that one day our relationship will be reconciled and will be great. But you have to give your family time to heal. Just because I'm better doesn't mean that all that stuff that I did just disappears. So more of the positive experiences though are those messages like the hearts on comments and stuff like that, or a smile here and there. In my career and working with people that are struggling with substance abuse, that I think the biggest positive experience is seeing actually somebody get it. Like somebody goes to treatment. And I had one girl that I mentored when I was at peer support at Bradford in Alabama. And she is just thriving. Like she's all over Facebook. She's doing great. She was a house mom, you know, she got her car back. She's doing all the stuff that I did like at that first stage. And it is just, it gives me chill bumps. Like to see somebody get it and start doing good in life is just the best thing ever. More positive experiences. I think the opportunities I'm given, just the work opportunities, the opportunity to, you know, my grandfather needed somebody to come and help him, and he asked me. Like I was like, what? You know what I mean? Like that is unheard of because of what I have done in my past. So just stuff like that, like being present for my brothers, you know, being a niece to my aunt that is just great and is in recovery, and it's just a good life. Like it is so good. Positive experiences with my relation. I could go on and on about this. My relationship, like we have great conversations now. We have, like, we're grown up, you know, before we were not. We can go out and have fun and remember it, you know. It's just amazing. It's really amazing. Yeah, there's so many positive experiences. I seriously could make a list of a million. So yeah, getting to do stuff like this, like sharing my story, getting to tell other people, and hopefully maybe somebody will hear it and say, you know what, I can do that too, you know. Or getting to see people at work. I see people walking by my window. That's why I keep looking out there. You know, seeing them, they're like, when I tell my story to some of them, they're like, you've done all that. You've been to prison. It's so unimaginable to them that somebody, and not to brag, not to anything like that, but somebody in my position now, it's hard for other people to see that I've actually done all that, you know, and been the bad girl and done all that. So it's just really good.
Awesome. What a beautiful answer. I love that. Awesome. Well, is there anything else that you would like to share or like kind of dig more on that we like didn't talk about or did talk about, or anything
Um,
else?
I think I touched on just about everything.
Thing else or
I don't think so. I think that's pretty much got it all.
perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for talking to me, Jess. I really appreciate it.
You're
Um,
welcome. Thank you for
yeah,
having me.
yeah, of course. Yeah, of course, of course. I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Yes, you too.
Thank you.